Okay. I guess we're live. Let me see. Is there anyone who is around? Just let me know if you can hear me and see my screen. Um, by the way, for this week's stream, I have a guest on the show. So let me introduce to you great teacher Sachin. I don't usually say this, but I'm excited to have my buddy Sachin here. And so Sachin and me have known each other for like what 5 years now. I think we met back in 2021 or 2020. Yeah, I think 2021.
Yep.
On this like dreaded app called Clubhouse. um, and like we used to talk about a bunch of stuff, and like we used to join like these vegan streams as well. And well, not just vegan streams, we did a bunch of streams. We did a vegan stream, there was an abortion stream, there was you
Yep.
did some like atheism, those kinds of streams as well. um
Yeah.
yeah,
We did one on trans stuff and things like that.
yeah, we did a bunch of rooms on Clubhouse, and it was all fun and games until Clubhouse sort of became like a defunct kind of shitty app, which was for some reason extremely buggy by the end, and pretty much everyone kind of vacated the app, and we all moved to like Discord. I mean, I was already on Discord from like 2018 or whatever. Um, but then like Sachin created the Mortal Jungle Discord server, which is you'll find the link to that server in my in my link tree, which I have linked in the description. So he is the owner of the Mortal Jungle server. So in case people know about Mortal Jungle but don't know about Sachin, he's the owner of that server, and I attribute a lot of my debate skills to sparring with him. I wouldn't say sparring, but like yeah, like I've gotten a lot of feedback from him. Like he's watched a lot of my old debates and like given me feedback and stuff. And we I keep like messaging him every now and then like to discuss one thing or the other. It doesn't necessarily have to be about veganism. Although like many of the topics that we discuss are adjacent to veganism. But a lot of it is just like general analytic philosophy, that kind of stuff. So, welcome uh, on the stream, Sachin. Would you like to say something? You can,
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Um, yeah, it's been great. I've been watching some of your videos. I think you're putting out good content.
thank you.
Um, and and just for people who don't know, the Modal Jungle is the most active server on Discord. Uh,
That's true. It's true.
no, I was just joking. It's a good repo if you want to learn maybe some logic and stuff like that. We have
Yeah.
some channels that can help you out. That's
Hmm.
um, pretty much
Yeah.
what the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like huge proponents of people just learning formal logic, at least propositional logic. Wouldn't you say? Would you say like the bare minimum is prop logic, or would you say the bare minimum is first order logic?
Uh, I don't know. I think it might depend on your goals, but I think you should learn both. I think they're pretty easy. But
Yeah,
I don't know what the yeah, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but
The
yeah,
Sachin's minimum is learn them all, which is fairly
everyone. Yeah.
respectable. It was a
Nah,
respectable goal.
I think you'd want to learn. I would say you should probably learn prop FOL and some modal logic.
Yeah.
Um, that would be pretty nice.
Yeah, that would like cover most of the bases, I guess. Like for most use cases, yeah,
Yeah, like
you're.
if you're getting into philosophy,
Hmm.
yeah, if you're getting into more hardcore fill stuff, you might want to do like modal logic and stuff. But
Yeah.
it depends. Like if you're trying to argue against someone who's deploying first order logic,
Hmm.
I think it'd be nice to know how to evaluate those arguments,
Yeah.
just check for validity and stuff like
Exactly.
that. But so I would say, yeah, there, yeah, and there's a number of people who do that,
Hmm.
and so um, it's not like a very trivial number of people who
Yeah.
deploy. Well, maybe it is in the broader context, but in field spaces,
Hmm.
I see people trying to deploy arguments they formalize in FOL. So it'd be nice to know that.
Yeah.
Um, check validity, or you don't even have to check validity yourself. You can ask them to check it, but you want to
Hmm.
be able to see if they're giving you BS, right?
Yeah. I mean, you should be able to like tell if they're bullshitting you because a bunch of people will just like spam symbols and like unless you know how to evaluate it, there's no way to. The thing is, with most like most arguments, it's kind of like if you just give it a glance and you know logic decently, you can kind of tell if it's valid or not just by looking at the arg. You don't have to like do a bunch of like proofs to get it. If it seems fucky, then you can try to do a proof or whatever. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, you do have the tree proof generator online that you
yeah,
can also try to use
yeah,
instead of
exactly,
manually doing it. But yeah,
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, and also like this is just like a recommendation, I guess. Like a lot of people have like an intuitive understanding of logic, um, which is fine. But even then, if you have like some proper kind of rigorous understanding of logic, that's always like better than just having like an intuition. It's like Isaac says that you have an intuitive idea. It's like using a calculator um, over just like doing mental maths. Like imagine going up to like a departmental store and trying to do the math in your head, and you're probably gonna be like a few dollars or rupees off if you do it. I mean, given the complexity of the calculation, you might be some rupees or dollars off, and it's just better to use like a digital or yeah calculator to get the math done. So it's similar to that. You can probably have like an intuitive understanding, but why wouldn't you just learn it properly and then just deploy it properly? Um, yeah, that's kind of what yeah, like that's just something that we encourage people, and obviously it's not the main topic for the video today. um, the main topic for the video today is this thing called an inefficacy objection. um, for those of you who don't know, I'll just give you sort of like a brief overview of the entire like sort of like the history, right? So back in the day when people were like coming up with like veganism, you can think of like the Vegan Society, like Donald Watson, Leslie Cross, all these people, and on the academic side, you had Peter Singer, and he wrote this book like Animal Liberation and stuff like that, and they're having like different kinds of cases being made that if we are disapproving of the things that happen to animals in animal agriculture, then we should avoid contributing to those things by making certain lifestyle changes. And those lifestyle changes can be roughly like abstaining from the purchase and consumption of animal products, like, meat, dairy, eggs, leather, wool, all these kinds of products. And um, yeah, like that's kind of like the prescriptions that people have made, given that you have a goal to like minimize your impact on animals, and like you don't want to cause suffering or rights violations on sentient beings. And there have been like there have been like certain objections that have been raised to this kind of idea, which is that if you stop doing these, if you stop purchasing these products, then given like certain things about the industry and how the industry works, you may not have a measurable or significant impact such that your purchases are having a causal effect on whether or not animals are killed or spared from killing. And that's what we call like causal inefficacy or causal impotence. So, like an individual consumer um, may not have an impact on animal agriculture and the supply side in virtue of their actions, which is stuff like purchasing animal products and stuff like that. So that's the general kind of idea of a causal inefficacy objection. Now there are different iterations of the causal inefficacy objection, and one of them has been like um, provided by one of them is called the two insulated defeater, which was proposed by Mark Budolfson. And the idea generally is that animal agriculture and distribution supply chains, these kinds of things, they they have like buffers to account for like marginal changes. So suppose like 100 people are buying something and suddenly 110 people ask for the same thing. The company is going to have like a buffer to account for this roughly 10 people increase in demand. And given that that is the case, given that the company is overproducing anyway, it's not clear that minor fluctuations in the supply chain, on the demand side, is going to affect the supply chain, and and thus you don't have like an impact on the like you as in like an individual consumer does not have an impact on the supply side. Thus, you don't have like an impact on the number of rights violations that are taking place in virtue of your actions. So that is the two insulated defeater, which is the idea that like a consumer is insulated from their from the consequences of their purchase. Uh, and there's another version of the inefficacy objection, which is that the you know the supply chain, the entire system of animal agriculture and the economy and stuff like that is too complex, such that a small signal that is sent by like that may be generated by a person, an individual consumer, travels down the chain and has any effect. It's kind of like imagine like sort of like a ripple. If the ocean is too big, you make a ripple on one side, the ripple is going to like stop progressing at some point because the ocean is so large. It's not like the ripple is going to go to the other side of the ocean, right? That's the kind of thing that um, is a second kind of inefficacy objection. And there are certain kinds of responses that have been traditionally performed. Like initially, when someone says that, well, it's not clear that if you just purchase like like some animal product, then there's going to be. It's not like you purchase one piece of chicken and then one chicken is killed. It doesn't work like that, right? So why would we think that? So how is it that our choices have like an impact? And then I think Peter Singer himself provided like a rejoinder to that objection, which was that he said, obviously there's going to be like a threshold. So the threshold um, response is that, you know, there's like a threshold in the market, and when people purchase, they get closer and closer to the threshold. And if they are on the threshold and they make the purchase, then um, that's going to cause rights violations. So that's the kind of like response that Singer provided. Now, then we have these kinds of the two insulator defeater, these kinds of objections. So there has been a paper which was authored by Steve McMullen and Matthew Haltman. If I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, I may be butchering it, but um, yeah, these two individuals have authored this paper titled "Against Inefficacy Objections: The Real Economic Impact of Individual Consumer Choices on Animal Agriculture." That's the paper. And I'll drop a link to the paper in the description so that people can read it whenever they want. So a lot of stuff that we're talking about comes from the paper. At least a lot of stuff that I'm talking about. Sachin has his own like things to say. Um, so yeah, those are the kinds of things that are argued for when making the case for causal impotence or causal inefficacy, however you want to frame it. And the paper provides like some empirical case. It also provides some conceptual cases against these defeaters and why they fail. And one important thing, so it kind of explains how the thing works, which is that I'm gonna go back to my Obsidian and try to draw this out. And the idea is that if there's some kind of like threshold, so let's say there's like a threshold, and we are calling this the demand threshold. Sorry, why is this so light? That's better. So there's a demand threshold, and people, when they make purchases, they have a certain probability of being on this threshold. And if they make the purchase, they are making like a dollar in this person's hand. Yeah, if they put a dollar at this point, like there's some probability associated with being on the threshold, and if you make the purchase while being on the threshold, then this triggers a signal that travels down the line, and depending on like the industry and the way it operates and some empirics surrounding that, there is what is going to lead to is that a certain number of animals are going to be killed or be bred into existence or be like stuff like that, you know. So in this paper, they are talking about like chickens. So purchasing like chicken flesh, that's the kind of thing that they are talking about. And the idea is that given certain assumptions, we're not going to get into the details of that. You can read the paper if you want to understand that in greater detail. But the idea is that if you are on the... So there's some probability, say P, that is associated with being on the threshold. And if you are on the threshold and you make the purchase, then there's, depending on the kinds of adjustments that the industry can make. In this case, they're assuming that the smallest adjustment that the industry can make is delay a shipment of chickens by 1 day, and a shipment of like 900 chickens by 1 day. So there's some probability, and they say that under certain assumptions, the probability will be like 1 in 900, and so there's a probability of being on the threshold for each purchase. So for every purchase that you make for chicken flesh, there's a 1 in 900 chance of being on the threshold, and the consequence of triggering the threshold is that 900 chickens will be ordered to be killed, essentially. So your actions will result in the deaths of like 900 chickens. That's kind of how this works. And there's some further calculations that you can make from this data, which is that you can plug these numbers into like a binomial probability calculus, and you can derive that depending on the amount of chickens that a person buys, you can categorize people into different brackets. So you can say certain people are like high consumers of chicken, certain people are low consumers of chicken, certain people are like the average consumer of chicken. So someone with an average consumption will be like 30 chickens purchased in 1 year. So if you, for example, if you compute the probability of that using the binomial probability formula, you get a probability of roughly 3.2% for 1 year. And assuming a person lives for 75 years, which is sort of like an upper bound of the average lifespan of a person, the probability of triggering the demand threshold at least once in your lifetime is 91.8. You can round it up to like 92%. 91.8 round up to 92. Yeah. So the idea is, if you are an average consumer of chicken and you make like 30, which means that you purchase 30 chickens in a year, then your lifetime probability of triggering the threshold at least once is 92%, which is a pretty high probability. Like, you can get a sort of an intuition of how likely this is by going to like an online coin toss simulator and bias the coin to like 92% heads or something like that, and then you can do some like 100 trials, and you can kind of get the idea that it gives you like an intuition to like how likely it's going to be that you trigger the demand threshold at least once in your life. 92%, even intuitively, is like a really high chance of triggering a demand threshold of anything. Actually, at least 92% is a high probability. Now, assume that someone is cutting their chicken consumption to 50% of the average, which would mean that they are consuming 15 chickens as opposed to 30 chickens. Then their probability of triggering the threshold over a lifetime is going to come down, but is still going to be 71%. So you're still like pretty likely to trigger the threshold. And let's assume someone cuts their consumption to 1/3, like 33.33% of the average. Then the probability of triggering the threshold at least once in your lifetime is again going to fall, but it's still like 56% for 75 years, assuming the lifespan is 75 years. Now, if we make another assumption, like and assume that you cut your consumption of chickens to like 25% of the average, which is like 1/4 of like 30, then you have a probability of 46% of triggering the threshold at least once in your lifetime. So even if you're like a really low consumer, which is just 1/4 the average, you still have a significant chance of triggering the threshold over a lifetime. And if you want to get an intuition of whether 46% is like a decent chance, you should just ask yourself if you would be okay with like pressing a button that has a 46% chance of killing like 900 humans, for example. Or would you, in that case, just take the precautionary principle and not press the button at all, right? So that's the kind of um, calculations that have been made. I'm just gonna so that people can. I mean, if you go to like the Study Archives Discord server, then you can find this thing over there. But I'm just gonna. Oh shit. Okay, got it. I'm gonna post this entire thing over here, just just in case you want to see it. Um, so yeah, um, just once again, uh, for a lifetime of average consumer, you have a 92% chance. For 50%, you have 50% of the average consumption. You have a 71% chance. One third of the average, if you consume 10 chickens a year, for example, your probability is 56%. If you consume 25% of the average, then you have a chance of 46%. That's These are the calculations that have been obtained from performing the binomial probability calculations, given these numbers of 1 by 900. If you have like a probability of being on the third. So the idea is that every time you go and make a chicken purchase, you have a 1 by 900 chance, and you can count the number of trials that you perform by just counting the number of times you purchase. So that'll be the number of times. So it'll be like a binomial probability equation, and you can plug the values in, and then that's how you get these numbers. So that's kind of the overview of how you can make the case that someone who is making a purchase. By the way, these are like for the average. There are people who are going to consume like way more than the average. So there are like people who are on like keto diets or like carnivore diets and stuff like that, who consume like copious amounts of meat, and their consumption would be like many orders of magnitude. Well, maybe not many orders of magnitude, but like at least an order of magnitude higher than someone who is on the average, I guess. It would depend on your consumption. Sorry, what?
People who eat twice the meat to offset vegans.
That's something we should discuss. Hold on. Well, people who consume twice a
I was joking to say that they're above average. I mean,
yeah.
if they're previously average and they eat twice the meat.
Yeah, I know they're above the average, and their consumption is going to like depend on these numbers. Like if you're like 25% above the average, then there's going to be a corresponding increase in the probability that you're triggering the threshold at least once. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. And there's one more thing I wanted to say, which is that there are certain kinds of challenges. If a person is making an inefficacy objection, right? 1 second. Yes, there we go. If a person is making an inefficacy objection, there are two challenges that a person would have to like overcome. Okay, so the first challenge is going to be that you have to show that your purchase is not triggering, there's not like a probability of triggering the threshold. So let's say low probability of triggering threshold. And the second challenge is that you have to show that you're not creating demand. No demand creation. Now, I guess at this point, I'll just let Sachin come in because these are the things that one needs to understand clearly, and certain hypotheticals would be interesting to consider when trying to address when trying to understand how to address like an inefficacy objection. So, Sachin, do you want to uh, say something about this?
Yeah. I don't want to repeat a lot of what you said because, but yeah, like what some people care about, people who run inefficacy objections, a lot of them want to say that, stabbing animals, killing them for food is morally wrong. But because of inefficacy, uh, the inefficacy of their individual purchase, the likely inefficacy of their individual purchase, they don't view the act of purchasing, as morally uh, wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would think that the sense of inefficacy that one would think is morally relevant is a sort of counterfactual inefficacy. Like
Yeah.
if you hadn't made the purchase, the number of animals that are going to be killed is the same as when you do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't want to talk too much about that because you um, already spoke about the inefficacy objection quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they may have different goals. For example, one goal someone running this might have um, is to make the vegan hold the view that the individual mediator or the individual purchase is not morally objectionable,
Mm-hmm.
or that the conjunction of all the purchases across a lifetime isn't something that's morally problematic. To sort of change the preference of the vegan. And the thing is, a lot of vegans care about demand creation, right? Like if you create demand for uh, mass animal slaughter,
Mm-hmm.
like vegans would find that morally objectionable, and I think people should find that kind of thing morally objectionable.
Yeah.
Um, so I so I have so I wrote two theses here. One is called the demand normativity thesis,
Mm-hmm.
which is roughly that creating demand for an outcome imposes on one a moral responsibility for the outcome scale depending on the degree of demand generated.
Yeah.
So more demand means more responsibility.
Yeah. By the
And
way, just one sec. So here,
yeah,
it's important to like make it clear that we are distinguishing the triggering of the threshold and creating demand. And the idea is that when you're saying we're creating demand, we mean something like we're sending the signal to the industry that there are like more people willing to buy a given product, right? That's the kind of thing that we're talking about.
yeah. I mean, I think demand. I don't have like a very like precise definition for it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think something like um, say there's a. I mean, just hypothetically, I'm not saying this is what creates demand in the end, my case, but like paying money to motivate someone to do something, and as the amount of money increases, their motivation increases. For example, is I think creating demand for it. That's just one instance of what I consider increasing demand for something.
Right. Yeah.
So as you increase the number that's motivating someone or an industry, whether it's the amount of money or the amount of profit or whatever the signal is,
Yeah.
um, you're creating demand for it. And it doesn't have to be like even a direct increase. It's like um, as as the amount of money increases, there's another number that increases, and uh, paying money or increasing the first number generally increases the second number, but doesn't strictly increase it for each purchase. I think you're still creating demand
Mm-hmm.
by uh, by purchasing the product or increasing the first number.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's just like a sort of abstract idea of what I'm getting at. But I think there isn't a whole lot of dispute that that I've seen that your purchase generally creates a demand for animal products.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, think of it also as like there's also this notion of collective responsibility, right? Like
Yeah.
the collective who pays for animal products, if they hadn't paid for it, presumably, if it, even if it doesn't completely go away, which I think it probably would, but it would still significantly reduce um, uh, animal slaughter, um,
Yeah.
if not completely eliminate it
Yeah.
in the long run. If we stop purchasing it, I think there's a sense of collective responsibility in virtue of creating demand,
Yeah.
financial demand. Um, okay, so it's not something that's like that I have a definition for that covers every possible
Mm-hmm.
uh, instance where that like allows you to delineate between every instance of what creates demand and what doesn't. But I think this is like a case where, or at least in theory, like financial demand is like a sufficiency condition to count as creating demand.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so that's the demand normativity thesis that, um, creating demand imposes on you a moral responsibility of the outcome and the scale depending on how much demand you create. And then there's the impact normativity thesis. Um, so this one is the purchase having an efficacious impact on the outcome imposes on one a moral responsibility for the difference in outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so someone running the inefficacy objection. I don't think it should be called an objection really, but yeah, inefficacy objection is because they say inefficacy objection to veganism. It's not really an objection to veganism. It's just probably just they're attempting to say that's not an obligation to go vegan, but it's not. They're not trying to say that you shouldn't go vegan or that you have an obligation not to be vegan. But
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
The purchase, So a lot of these people subscribe to the impact normativity thesis and don't hold the demand normativity thesis.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of vegans do care about the demand you create. They care about collective responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And those kinds of vegans are probably not going to be swayed, or their preferences are probably not going to change on hearing inefficacy objections.
Yeah.
Because they care about demand. And you haven't really made a case that individual purchases, generally speaking, don't create demands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the first thing. They might want to change your preference, and if you're someone who subscribes to the demand normativity thesis, for instance,
Yeah.
it's
Sorry.
probably
Just 1 second. Just so that people can follow. Like the demand normativity thesis is the view that it's not like demand creation is in and of itself like something that's bad, not just in virtue of like it triggering the threshold, right?
in this specific case, yeah.
In the
But
specific
broadly,
case, yeah.
it'll be creating demand for an outcome imposes on one a moral responsibility for the outcome,
Yeah.
and it's scaled depending on the degree of demand generated.
Exactly.
Um, so that's one like if your goal is to change the vegan's preference, that's one hurdle. And the second one is going to be what you already brought up, which is just taking the empirics in the background here, a 1 in 900 chance that your purchase is going to trigger a threshold that kills 900 chickens, right? You can look at the net expected value here, right? Even if you don't take the entirety of your lifetime, just take one individual purchase
Yeah.
and look at the net expected value of the outcome. And I think it's going to be something like the whatever benefit there is to consuming one chicken
Mm-hmm.
and the slaughter of one chicken.
Yeah.
I think something like that's going to be the next outcome, which presumably even the person running the inefficacy objection probably already thinks is something that's bad.
Yeah.
And so even for one individual purchase,
Mm-hmm.
you have an expected the expected outcome is something that we probably should consider bad.
I think like when we were discussing this, we did this whole like exercise of like I think I asked you like, um, Like if we can consider like a case of someone who's like, oh well, like I'm vegan for the rest of the year, but like one day out of the year I go to my grandma's house and I have to like buy her like a chicken fried rice or something like that. Um, and then that's kind of the case that we're discussing here. Like if we just take like one, if you assume that you're just making one purchase, what's the expected like impact of that? Um,
Yeah, yeah. You mean, yep.
yeah. So do you wanna like just do that all over again? Like like you can just let me know what to like write, and I can just like write over here so that people can see.
Oh, sure. So let's say the probability of triggering the threshold is 1 in 900, right? So it's 1 in 900.
Yeah. So let's say P of T is 1/900.
And then the outcome, if you trigger the threshold,
Mm-hmm.
is going to be 900 chickens slaughtered
Yeah.
plus whatever utility you get from consuming the chicken. Utility and disutility, just, just let's just go with utility right now.
Yeah.
So let's say the outcome in the case you trigger, so OLT or whatever, outcome of when you, in the case where you trigger the threshold,
Yeah.
uh, OLT, yeah, is going to be 900 C, which C is like an individual badness of an individual chicken slaughtered.
900 chicken deaths. Okay, so CD is chicken
Yeah,
deaths. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Plus, yeah, plus the utility you get from consuming a chicken corpse, right? So I don't know, put whatever S or whatever, or U or whatever you want.
One. Okay. One U. So this is the utility from one chicken. Um. Yeah. Let's say one chicken biryani from given to your like grandma or something like that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
isn't that the expected outcome in this case where you trigger the threshold? Yeah, I think so. Um, okay. And then there's in 899, so the probability of not triggering is 899 out of 900.
Probability of not T is 899
899, yeah,
by
out
900.
of 900. And in that case, the uh, the outcome is no chicken deaths, which is zero. You don't have to write that down, but you get one U.
Yeah.
And then, so you multiply P of T times OC1, P of not T times OC2, and you add them together to get the net expected outcome. So,
Sorry. P of T times OC1.
yeah, plus P of not T in the case where you don't trigger it, and you get the outcome in case you don't trigger it.
And this is the expected the expected outcome.
Or yeah, then expected uh, outcome or an expected value of
Yeah, expected
one individual
value.
purchase.
Okay. Okay.
And
So that will
when you do
be,
the
yeah, you do the math, it'll be like 1/900 times 900 CD plus 1U, and this entire thing plus 899 by 900 CD. Oh, sorry. Times 0 CD
one,
plus
yeah,
1 U. Um, yes. Okay, then you just do, you just multiply 900 by 900 CD plus 1/900 U. plus 899 by 900 u plus 0. And then that'll be, this cancels out. So that's 1 CD plus 1 by 900 u plus 899 u by 900 plus 0. So just forget about the 0. Yeah, I'll just let it be. So that'll be 1 CD plus, this will become 900 by 900 u, which is just going to be like 1. So the outcome is 1 CD plus 1 u. Did I do that correctly?
Yeah, as far as I can see, you did it correctly. And that's what you'd expect, right? You get the utility of eating the chicken and the chicken slaughter, right?
Yes.
And presumably this is the kind of thing that people are just saying is a bad thing in the first place. That's the net expected outcome of one purchase, given the information we have at hand.
Yes.
And this should motivate you not to do it. And it should motivate even people running the inefficacy objection. Like, this net expected outcome should motivate you not to do it. And they probably would in the human case.
Yes.
And so if it doesn't motivate you here, you're just going to train.
Exactly.
So that's the second hurdle. With like, even if you are someone who's like, I don't really care about demand, like, this is something you probably should care about. And the one thing here is, like, even if you change the probability from like 1 in 900 to 1 in 5,000, and if the number of chickens that get slaughtered if you trigger the demand is 5,000, you're going to get the same kind of outcome.
Yeah.
And so what some people want to say, so this is, some people want to say that if the probabilities start to get really small, their norm is to treat those probabilities as essentially 0, right? In decision making is what they want to say. There's some, it's like Pascal's mugging and stuff that motivates some people to treat those probabilities as 0 in utility calculus or whatever, or decision when they make decisions, right? I think that's an insane view to hold. If you're doing it across the board, I think it's an insane view to hold. Treat those as 0. First of all, I don't think 1 in 100 is sufficiently small for you to treat as 0. I think you should be talking about, even if you're going to do it, it should be probabilities that are way smaller than that. Probably orders of magnitude smaller. Second thing is, if you, of course, as you said, you can, instead of taking an individual action, you can look at the conjunction of their purchases across a lifetime. And in that case, the probability is not going to be small anymore. The probability is going to be, of triggering the threshold, is going to be way higher. You can do the expected value calculus there.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, the expected number of times you trigger the threshold was like 2.5 or something like that.
For an average consumer?
I think so. I don't have any of the, I don't have the calculus at hand, but I think it was something like that. It's like a 92. What was it? Probably 92%.
92%.
That they triggered at least once.
Yeah.
And I think the expected number of triggers is something like 2.5 times, but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong.
Sorry. How did we like get? I mean, I know you don't have like the exact numbers, but like, how is that being like arrived at?
I'd have to look at my notes again.
Okay.
But it's you don't have to take my word for it. But again, the point regardless is the probability that you trigger that you do something bad. The probability in this case is gonna be much higher.
Yes.
And if you do the calculus, I don't have that hand, but odds are you're going to get something that's still completely insane
Mm-hmm.
over a lifetime of purchases. You just take the conjunction of your purchases together. Um, but if you want, I can try to show you that later. And if you want to put it in the comments or something, you can do that too.
Yeah, we can do that.
Um, okay. And so even if you want to treat small probability as 0, and even if you think 1 in 100 is sufficiently small to treat as 0, which I think is completely insane,
Mm-hmm.
you still have this problem. Yeah, and I can explain why I think it's silly.
Mm-hmm.
At least doing it across the board is
Yes.
silly.
Mm-hmm.
Treating small probabilities as 0, because like, let's take a small probability, right?
Yeah.
1 in 100 is kind of silly to call small. I just brought this up because I've seen someone bring this up.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just say you can press a button, and if you press the button, there's a 1 in 900 chance that you get $1 billion. But there's what, a 50% chance that you lose like half a cent.
Yeah.
Or some trivial amount, right? Like if you treat 1 in 900 as 0 probability, or like in that case, you probably shouldn't press the button, because your expected outcome is you're going to lose half a cent or something.
Yeah.
Which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
And you can do small probabilities too, and you can make it seem like crazy view to hold, at least in that particular situation.
Yeah.
So if you want to hold this across the board, I think it's silly.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those cases where you shouldn't hold it, because there's a huge risk involved.
Yeah.
Right.
There's like a life in question, or like many lives actually.
Yeah, multiple. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So those are the two main things. Oh, well, yeah, DNT, and then yeah. Okay. So I brought up the 2 points I wanted to make, and then if someone isn't motivated by demand, you can give them some hypotheticals that might motivate them.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing I like to do is to take a case and simplify it, and sort of see if take the, ordinary animal purchase case, you simplify it, make it like a toy model, and then see what your views are there, and then try to see what the relevant differences are between the cases. And so, for instance, here's a scenario where people make purchases, and the individual purchase is not efficacious.
Mm-hmm.
In the counterfactual sense. But I think people would still want to say that the people involved have done something bad. So let's say there's like a black box in the middle of the town.
Yep.
And let's say there's someone in the box.
Yep.
Doesn't even have to be one person, it could be multiple people.
Yeah.
And let's say there are like machines outside the box that accept money.
Yep.
And let's say that at the end of the day, if the total amount of money in all the machines is anything over $10,
mm-hmm.
the person in the box is going to be like brutally tortured, right?
Yep.
Like they're going to be like skinned alive and drowned and just like brutally tortured.
Yep.
And just to cut things short, let's say that two people go to two boxes at the same time, and let's say each box dispenses a candy, right? So you get some kind of benefit from putting your money in the box.
Yep.
And let's say two people go to two boxes at the exact same time, put in $10 in the box each.
Yep.
And I remember if I said greater than $10, greater than or equal to, but if it's greater than or equal to $10, the person gets tortured.
Yeah.
They put in $10 each, and then they get their candy, they eat it. At the end of the day, the person gets tortured.
Yeah.
If you look at the case, both of their purchases are inefficacious in the counterfactual sense.
Yes.
If the first person hadn't put their money in,
the second person would have.
The person in the box would, and the person in the box would have been tortured anyway. Same thing for the second person.
Yeah.
And do we want to say that neither of them did anything bad? I mean, I wouldn't say so, and I suspect a lot of people probably would want to say that they did something bad,
Yeah.
despite inefficacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, some people might want to say, well, no, neither did anything bad. And so it's like, if only one person put the money in, presumably that person would have done something bad, but they kind of lucked out that another person came in and put their money in as well.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't hold that view, and I think some people might be motivated when they look at this to be like, oh no, like in this case, despite um, the inefficacy of each individual purchase,
Yep.
they're both morally responsible for the outcome.
Yep.
So this is a case where, despite inefficacy, we want to assign moral responsibility to the individuals. Like they're responsible. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, the collective is responsible, and because he's part of the collective who created demand, he's also individually responsible
Mm-hmm.
for the outcome.
Yep.
Um, so this is something that might motivate someone. And then so you look at this case, and then you look at the actual, case where you're making purchases and what's happening with the animal holocaust,
Yep.
and you want to look at sort of symmetry breakers, like what would I need to change about this case to make it such that I no longer assign more responsibility to the people buying the candy and letting the person get tortured.
Yeah.
Um, so that's sort of something you might want to reflect on and see what your values are here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's the general point I wanted to make. I mean, there are more versions of the hypothetical, but this is the broad point that I wanted to make
Yeah.
to see if that motivates people to accept DMT in case, I mean, just because.
Yeah. So just to
um,
just to kind of like summarize what you said, like quickly, just so if we like posit that there's like a box and there's a person inside the box, and there are like these blue boxes outside that you can put money into, and if, for example, you say that if you put in like $10 into this, um, if the idea is if a total of $10 have been deposited into these boxes, um, you know, then this person will be tortured at the end of the day. Um, Now, suppose there's a person who came in and put in $10 into this box. We like that's like a simple case. The simple case is if there was only one box, and if a person came in and put in $10, and it turned out that at the end of the day this person got tortured, we would want to say that this person did something bad. Um, and like we don't have to like think about, like the intentionality or whatever. Like did this person know? Did this person like have access to this information? We're not thinking about any of that. So any of that stuff. We're just thinking about like whether they did something bad or not. Not whether the person themselves is a bad person, etc. Like those are not the kinds of thing that we're talking about. We're just talking about like the action of like putting in $10 into this, and the consequence of that would be that this person inside the box is tortured. Um, Now we can just like take. So in that case, we would want to say that this person did something bad. Now, in case there were two boxes, and you could like simultaneously put money into these boxes, and let's say there were like two people who came in at exactly the same time and put in exactly $10, and the money hit the box at the same time and all that. If we just assume that everything happened at the same time, then the outcome over there is at the end of the day, the box is going to register $20 because this person put in $10, this person put in $10, for example. Um, and if it registers at least $10, then the person inside the box is going to be tortured, right? And both of them have put in $10. Now, in the count, so the idea is that in the counterfactual where one of these people have not put in $10, the other person puts in the $10 anyway. So this person's action is causally inefficacious, because whether person B put in the money or not, doesn't change whether the person inside the box was tortured, because person A put in $10. And even the reverse is true. Like, person A's action is causally impotent because person B put in $10 anyway. So whether or not person A puts in $10 is irrelevant. Well, it has no causal efficacy in terms of the outcome over here, which is that the person is going to be tortured. Now, the question is, we wouldn't want to say, at least like me and Sachin would not want to say that neither of them had any responsibility, given that like both of their actions were causally inefficacious, um, given that both of them like created like the conditions for the person to be tortured, right? Um, Now you would also not want to say that like one person just only one person is responsible and the other person just like got unlucky, um, because the same kind of thing applies over there. Like, um, that if this person put in the money, um, like you wouldn't like, yeah. So I already said that the cases where they put in the money at the same time, but assuming that person A put the money first and person B put the money later, um, it would be kind of strange to say that only person B is responsible and person A is not responsible. Um, and if
Yeah.
person sorry, what?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and if the reverse happened, then you wouldn't want to say that person A is now responsible and person B has no responsibility, uh, given that person A had no uh, causal efficacy anyway. Um, so the hypothetical there would just be like, if they put in the money at the same time, you wouldn't want to say either of them are responsible. Sorry, yeah, sorry, neither of them are responsible. Um, so did
Yeah.
I get all that correct, or did I miss something?
Everything that I registered, I think you got right.
Okay.
Um, uh, there's some parts that maybe I wasn't tracking perfectly, um, but I think you do have the right idea.
Yeah.
Um, so in the case the reason I said they put at the same time is so that there isn't really symmetry breaker between them.
Yeah.
So if you do want to assign moral responsibility, probably going to have to be to both of them, right?
Yes.
It's like all or nothing in this case. Now, you could, in theory, still say one person is responsible, but there really isn't something to break the symmetry between either person. So it's not clear why you'd assign one more responsibility, not the other. At
Right.
least nothing relevant that I can see. Right? You drew left and right. Maybe that's what they're using. I don't know. But
Yeah.
um, I said as a joke because that seems completely relevant.
Yeah,
Uh,
like a left.
yeah,
I'm right-handed, so I will absolve the one on the right side.
yeah. And to be clear, that's the drawing, right? Nothing in the hypothetical specified who was in what location. So, given the details of the hypothetical, you should probably assign responsibility to either neither person or to both.
Hmm.
Um, but in reality, like, yeah, there's gonna like not every meat purchase is gonna happen at the same time.
Yep.
And so, if you like, I don't think this should be. You should assign most responsibility based on time because if one person put it in like a millisecond after the other person, now like, oh, because of the millisecond delay, the first person is now responsible and not the second person
Yeah.
for this like, yeah, incredibly horrible whatever outcome.
Yeah.
Um, you don't want to assign. I don't think you want to assign no one responsibility. Um, and in the case where even if it's a matter of time, like you're still going to get um, a sort of probabilistic issue when it comes to demand. It's a similar kind of uh, so like for instance, let's say it was a scenario where okay, let's say it's $10 is the threshold,
Hmm.
and let's say um, let's say there are, how do we do this? Let's say there are four people, right?
Yeah.
And each person puts in $5 at different times, right?
Yeah.
And so they hit what, $20, which is well over the threshold, and each purchase is inefficacious because one individual didn't purchase it, it'd still be at $15. So they're inefficacious in that sense, in the counterfactual sense.
Yeah.
Um, Now, let's say that someone wants to say, well, no, the person who's responsible is the person who brought it over the $10 threshold.
Yeah.
So, or at or over the $10 threshold, which is person number two, right?
Yeah.
Um, and they're assigned the entire moral responsibility of the person's torture.
Yeah.
Um, if you use something like the principle of indifference, given that there are four people here, the probability, and you're one of the four people, right?
Yeah.
The probability that you're that person is 1 in 4.
Yeah.
And so there's a 1 in 4 chance that you're responsible for that insane torture.
Yeah.
And you get the benefit of eating a candy. So the expected outcome in that case is still insane. I mean, you can do the calculus if you want, but it's still going to be something crazy that you don't want to do. So even if you're someone who doesn't want to assign responsibility to everyone because of demand, and for whatever reason you want to stick it to a smaller group of people, the entire responsibility of the outcome, you still shouldn't want. It's still going to be a bad thing. Or at the very least, you still shouldn't put the money in and purchase it because the expected outcome is insane.
Yeah.
And so that's a general, that's one way to address people who want to say that they have a subset of people who they assign all the negative outcome on that subset, which is a small fraction of the total of the larger set of people who create demand for it.
Yeah.
It's that the expected outcome is still insane.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're still going to have a negative attitude towards it, and you still shouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point. Like, if people want to make that move, but
yeah,
I think the sort of simpler thing to do is to say, well, no, everyone shares responsibility in this case.
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea generally is just that, even if like there is like so there are like two hurdles, just like to summarize, like there are two hurdles that a person making an inefficacy objection would have to like cross. First one would be to show that there's like a low probability of triggering the threshold, and the second one to show that there's no demand creation. Now, again, like even if you make the case for something like that, the idea would just be that even if there were like, again, even like the staunchest proponents of the inefficacy objection, like Mark Rudolphson or whatever, like I think like a significant chunk of their professional life is dedicated to like inefficacy objections, I guess. Like even the staunchest proponents of that kind of argument are not going to be making the case that there is no collective, there's no efficacy. They're not going to make the inefficacy case for the entire population. It's going to be restricted to be like an inefficacy for an individual consumer. So like, because it would be kind of crazy to say that if like 10 million people like stopped buying from KFC, then KFC is not going to change their supply. Like, it's just like insane. Yeah, like KFC is obviously going to change their supply if 10 million people just like stop buying one day, right? They're not going to be producing the same number of chickens. They're going to decrease the number of chickens that they produce, and along with that, the buffer that Bidolphin talks about is also going to be decreased. Apart from that, like, the idea is that if there is like even if you want to assign like collective responsibility, because like each person is like generating demand in this entire in this entire system, the idea would just be that you assign responsibility kind of proportional to the number of purchases that a person is making. So there would be like some kind of collective responsibility that the entire population gets for keeping together this entire animal agriculture industry. Um, and you're going to have like individual blame assigned to each person of the population based on how much of how much they're contributing, sorry, to the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for anyone, sorry, do you have more to
No,
say about that?
no, go ahead.
Yeah, for anyone confused about like the simplicity of the hypothetical, like it's meant to be like strict of it's meant to be a simple hypothetical that if you want to say that in the animal agriculture case, um, creation, demand creation is not something or you don't subscribe to the demand normalization thesis in that context, but you do in this context, the the thing you'd have to think about is the symmetry breakers between the cases and sort of modify, say, one of the cases
Yeah.
until you reach the point where either DNT, you subscribe to DNT in both cases or in either case, and see if that's actually a position you want to take.
Yeah.
That's the idea here. So it's not to say that if you're committed to DNT in this case, then you must be committed in the other. That's not what we're trying to say here.
Yeah.
But sort of thought might motivate you to subscribe to DNT in the animal, mass animal slaughter case.
Yeah. Um, yeah. DNT is the demand normativity thesis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. One
Um,
more thing that, okay, let's say you have a case where you just have like some kind of like the paper kind of says that people don't have like access to uh, the empirics necessary to like make um, informed judgments about when to purchase and stuff like that. So they have like a like their probability of being on the threshold is like kind of what they said, which is like 1 in 900. But suppose you had like some kind of information that allowed you to bypass that probability. So you're going to decrease your probability, right? So if I have some kind of access to if I have access to some kind of empirics, then I can now be like, oh, I'm gonna wait until this time of the year to make this purchase, such that now I'm like way over here in the grand scheme of things. I'm not here, which is on the threshold, and I can like um, continually sort of make purchases based on this information and never ever trigger the threshold. Um, yeah. So in this case, like straightforwardly, one thing is true, which is that if you subscribe to the DNT, which is demand normativity thesis, then whatever we said applies, like just straightforwardly. Um, Sachin, do you want to add to that?
yeah, I mean that was one of the things I was going to say. Like, yeah, if their goal is to motivate the vegan to hold a non-negative attitude towards their actions, the vegan could still, who subscribes to DNT, could still hold that they're creating a demand, and that since they're creating demand, depending on how much demand they're creating for the animal holocaust to continue,
Mm-hmm.
um, that they're doing something bad. Um, and there's there's a couple of other things, right, that I think are relevant here.
Mm-hmm.
So the main thing I think is relevant is that if someone is saying that they're doing this, they're making an empirical claim that it doesn't seem. I'm not going to just grant this kind of empirical claim just because
Yeah.
they say it, right?
Yeah.
Because one is if they're saying this, then they should have access to the relevant data that they need to do this analysis. Um, two, that they're doing the analysis correctly, and
Yes.
three, that their execution is correct,
Yeah.
right? So at least those three things need to hold for me to be like, oh, you're probably not actually triggering the threshold.
Yeah.
And that's an empirical case that they really should be making,
Yeah.
that they're actually doing it. I think that's one of the main things is the believability of that claim.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and also depending on there may be limitations with the data they get or their calculations, and there may be like a margin of error.
Mm-hmm.
And if the margin of error is high enough, it could still in their calculations high enough, it could still be the case that the probability of them triggering the threshold is sufficiently high that they should still refrain from doing this.
Yeah.
So those are the other 2 points I want to make about that.
Yeah, and like I think we also discussed something like there being like some kind of like upper limit on the number of people who can like do this. Like
Yeah,
uh
sort of trivially.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like a side point is like if the animal holocaust continues, like it's just not going to be the case that everyone is going to be able to avoid a threshold trigger or to avoid any sort of accountability in this way
Yeah.
while the animal holocaust continues. Because if the animal holocaust continues, it means people are triggering the threshold or people are making relevant purchases.
Yeah.
At least in a sort of simplistic view here. So that's sort of a side point,
Yeah.
but it's not like everyone is going to be able to like completely dodge accountability um, while the animal holocaust continues, provided they're still as a collective responsible for it, or
Yeah.
because some people are going to end up um, uh, triggering the demand threshold,
Yeah, they're just
which is
going to
why
be. There are some people who are just going to be like okay with like triggering the threshold, and they just don't give a shit, and they're gonna trigger the threshold anyway. There might be some people who just like naively, like they're not performing any kind of calculus. They're just making purchases like naively, and they may trigger the
yeah.
threshold. Yeah.
So the thing is like, let's say every non-vegan gets on board with this, and they're like, yeah, let me do the calculus and make sure that my purchase isn't going to trigger a threshold.
Yeah.
Um, in that case, I mean, I would think maybe I'm wrong here, but I think we should expect the animal holocaust to stop if no one actually triggers the threshold,
Yeah.
right? And maybe there's something there that I'm missing, but that's just a sort of naive expectation that I have. If everyone tries to get on board with this, like, yeah,
So
no one triggers the
so
threshold at all.
so
And
essentially what you're saying is we should be convincing people to do this instead of convincing them to stop eating animals, right? Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm
I
just
think a
kidding.
lot of people, yeah, I know, but yeah, they probably just be doing it wrong, or they probably be. I mean, yeah, people. I wouldn't be surprised. People just say they do this to avoid looking insane, and then they don't do it, or
Yeah.
they just do it half. Like they do it partially, and there's errors in their calculations, or they don't execute it. Or they go out with friends and they buy it. They buy uh, they buy stuff that's not in their calculations, right?
Yep.
Um, I mean, it wouldn't not be surprising at all if there were instances like that, or if that happens. I mean, what would be surprising if someone actually went through with this. I don't know anyone who does that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how anyone. I don't know anyone who does that, and I also don't know like how anyone would do it if they wanted to do something like that. Um, yeah, like that'd be it'll be like interesting. But even then, like I am a DNT enjoyer.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm saying I'm a DMT enjoyer. But yeah, yeah, DNT respecter. So yeah, it's not gonna move me much. Um, because I'm just gonna hold the same value if the victim was like a human or something like that, you know. Okay. So I think that's all I have in mind. Like, is there anything else that you had that you wanted to like bring up? Because I think that's all I have on my end to like bring up for now. We have like
Yeah.
just to like give sort of like a an overall kind of um like summary, I guess. The idea, yeah, we've covered the kind of history, you know, like the vegan society and all these people. They made the case that yeah, we should like stop purchasing animal products. And there were other people who said that, well, not every product, not every purchase is going to like cause um, animal rights violations. And then Singer was like, okay, yeah, there will be like a threshold number of purchases that you would have to make in order to like to trigger the threshold, right? And then there were some other responses like Midolson and another guy, I don't remember his name. And he said that, like, they said that there are these different kinds of and you can like read that paper. It's a pretty comprehensive paper, and they make a decent empirical case and some conceptual cases as well for these kinds of arguments. So yeah, so there are like two kinds of defeaters. Well, at least supposed defeaters for the efficacy view. There's like the too complicated or too insulated or too like complicated. Yeah, these are the two kinds of like defeaters: too insulated and too complicated. Um, and then the paper makes different kinds of empirical like analyses and make the case that efficacy holds in the paper. And what we are adding to over here is that we have defined like a challenge for um, the person making the inefficacy objection is twofold, which is they have to show that there's no triggering of the demand threshold, or at least like a really trivial probability of triggering the threshold. Um, and the second hurdle that they have to cross, which is that they have to make the case that there's no um, demand being created. Um, they can also make the case that yeah, those are the two challenges that a person um, would have to make if they're trying to make a causal inefficacy or a causal impotence objection to just like not just veganism but just like against like purchasing certain things, you know. Um, yeah. Um, Let me see. Uh, yeah. Okay. One more thing. Um, let's say there was just like one. Yeah. Like if the number of people that are participating in this entire thing with the, you know, the woman in the box kind of situation, if the number of people increases, does that mean that um, the overall responsibility is slow? Like if you just increase the number of people by like 10 million or something like that, does that mean the collective responsibility decreases by like by the same order? And the answer is just like no, because in that case the analogous case would be that with increasing number of participants there would be more women put in these red boxes um, and tortured to death. um, so yeah, it's not necessarily the case that more number of people means less responsibility, because there could be just more victims involved in virtue of the demand being created. Um, yeah, those are the kinds of things that we like. I wanted to discuss. So if Sachin does not have anything else to like add, we can probably like take some questions. Um,
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to add. I just wanted to say I'm not someone who did any empirical work on this.
yeah,
So when I say something like if everyone tries to get around triggering a threshold, then we wouldn't have to like I like I'm not trying to commit to saying that that's like true. I think it's a funny thought to have,
yeah,
but I'm not trying to. There, like I'm open to there being a ton of things on this that I'm just not seeing empirically
yeah,
with
sure.
the animal agriculture industry and how that works. So it may not be the case that if everyone decides to do it, then animal health stops. Maybe it reduces drastically or whatever. I don't know. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just that's just an interesting thought. It may be true, and if it is, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Also, one last point,
Mm-hmm.
and so any empirical point that I'm making is, I'm just going to put out there that I haven't done empirical work on this topic, and almost, I'm not someone who does much empirical stuff at all.
Yeah.
Um, Also, even if someone doesn't have the 1/900 probability of triggering the threshold,
Yeah.
um, let's just say you don't know what the probability is. Um, I think we should still err on the side of caution and stop the purchases
Mm-hmm.
rather than continue the purchases until we find out what the probability is. I think
Exactly.
that's what we do in human case.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do in human case. I think we should in the animal case, otherwise, NCT.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that is kind of true for like many things, right? Like for instance, like even though this kind of empirics is like available for like um, chickens, for example, we don't have the exact demand threshold for like dairy, for example. We don't know, or at least I haven't looked. I don't know if you have, but like I haven't looked at like empirics. Maybe like we could like look into it, but I haven't looked into the empirics surrounding this, like how much like if we consider like a unit of purchase of dairy products, like how much does that correspond to like the expected um, harm to like cows, for example. um, we don't
Yeah.
yeah, at least I'm not aware of like those kinds of empirics for like each and every animal product in existence. But the idea is that this is something that works, that is like true um, for the chicken case, and you can just make like an inference for that the same thing kind of applies, given that it's like the same kind of system, the same economic system, and the same kind of like production machinery and all that. Given that like I just make an
Yeah.
inference for all the other products, and just I don't care like what the probability is exactly, and I just like err on the side of caution.
Yeah. And also, on top of that, the general point of like, if the probability decreases, but the net expected harm, if you do trigger the threshold increases, it probably doesn't even matter what the probability is. Um,
Yeah.
if it's like a 1 in 5,000 in the harm and it triggers a threshold that kills 5,000 chickens,
Yeah.
probably shouldn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Um, and on top of that, like, yeah, eh, I, yeah, we haven't done the calculus on like whatever, right? I don't think you need to do some kind of calculus to be like, oh, purchasing this chicken or this dish that has chicken in it is something that I should do. Like, I think prior to the analysis,
Hmm.
all you need to do is just look at what you're buying and be like, hey, seems like if I do this, it's going to give some non-trivial demand,
Yeah.
uh, and the outcome is going to be something fairly trivial. Like there's a lot of chicken in this dish, or even if it's not a lot, it's probably
Yeah.
still a bad thing.
Yeah.
And if the purchase is like an extremely small amount of animal product to the point where it's like, okay, whatever the demand is probably similarly extremely small,
Hmm.
but the benefit is pretty large in that case. That may not be something you view as morally problematic. And so the general idea is that you don't need to have a calculus
Yeah.
prior to having these attitudes, right?
Yeah.
You can have the attitudes, and then if someone comes up with a calculus or something that's accurate, then you can shift your attitudes based on what the calculus shows,
Yeah. Exactly.
or then you would shift.
Yeah, I think the last thing you mentioned was like in reference to like really small purchase of like like even if you purchase like crops and like medicines and stuff like that, there's going to be like some marginal kind of impact, some revenue that's generated for animal agriculture, because the crops that we grow are like grown with manure. There's like gelatin in some of these medicines, um, and those are the kinds of things that we're talking about when we're saying that even if we make the purchase, um, like the yeah, you make even if you're creating some kind of demand, if the demand could be like low enough such that the demand could be low enough and the expected utility could be like pretty high. In that case, it would just be like um, permissible, unless there's some like calculus that overturns that kind of attitude, you know?
Yeah, if it's like you look at this and you're like, I'm just not seeing why I would think that there's some significant demand created here. Um, if there isn't like, sort of, if that's not something you're seeing, then if someone comes up with a calculus that says, well, actually, no, when you pay for this, you're creating as much demand as when for you know animal slaughter as when you buy like a whole chicken, like
Mm-hmm.
or when you buy a dish with a chicken leg in it. That's something that's going to make you go, oh yeah, that's crazy. But
Yeah.
absent that, if you look at this thing you're buying and you're just not seeing how this would create any significant demand, absent the case, your attitude might not be negative towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when you see how it would create demand, and that it's like like a non-trivial amount of animal product
Yeah.
in what you're buying, that in that case you might look at it and be like, oh, I shouldn't buy this.
Yeah.
Absent the case that actually this is not creating much demand at all.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So sure.
Mhm.
No, go ahead.
No, that was it. Like I was just gonna make a small comment on top. I don't really remember what I was gonna say. But that's a general idea, right? Like if anyone thinks that you have to do all the calculus and then forming attitudes around that, it's like no, you could have sort of pre-calculated attitudes and then shift your attitudes based on what the calculations show. And the pre-calculated attitudes are based on
Yes.
how much of the product is in the, or how much animal product is in the thing you're buying, or
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I was going to like stream about later, like like gelatin medicines and like animal testing. Those are the kinds of things I was going to like talk about in another stream. So I guess that would be like a good opportunity to talk about those kinds of things, like separately. Um, and yeah, so I guess that should be good enough. Like we've been streaming for some time, and I think we hit most of these kind of like trigger points that people have like issues with, and we touched on like fairly many concepts that are involved in this entire thing. Um, so yeah, I guess we'll just like I'm just gonna look at the comments ones and see if there are any questions. Um, okay. Um, yeah. So you have there's a question for you. The question is, what made Sachin go vegan? What's the motivation or trigger? You want to answer that?
Um, there's probably a lot of things leading up to it. I would say the thing that made me go vegan the next day was watching Gary's speech. Um,
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
yeah, so yeah, I watched this. There's a lot of things. Like I first started thinking about it when I actually saw a chicken being slaughtered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I started getting a lot of YouTube content around veganism. The funny thing is, I've known about Isaac's YouTube channel for since his old content, right? The one that like he used to have old content before he started making the new content.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah. I
I remember
remember.
years ago,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, some of his content came in my feed, and I watched a little bit of it. Um, and then after that, I started getting some of his content. I started getting other, vegan activist content. I was watching all that. I remember watching Dominion,
Uh huh.
and yeah, I was like, oh shit. And then I watched Gary's speech, and I was like, yeah. I went vegan uh, April 1st, 2020. Um,
Hey, are you fucking
not,
with all of us?
what do you mean? Yeah, it's the thing. Not an April Fool's joke, but that's when I went vegan. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I didn't watch a whole lot of content until um, around that time, 2019 to 2020,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
is when I started getting a lot of content in my feed.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like, oh yeah, I remember seeing some of Isaac's old content as well.
Mm-hmm.
prior to that. Uh, and then yeah, I watched that. And I was like, oh shit, this is like insane. So I'm vegan the day after I watched this speech.
So this is in 2018. Like, were you in India in 2018?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, by the way, Sachin has like elite Indian genes, by the way. Marriage proposals accepted. Am I right?
What do you mean? Not,
Huh?
well, I don't get like yeah, I'm Indian. My parents are Indian ethnicity. Yeah.
Yeah, Indian. Yeah. So yeah, he has elite Indian genes. So yeah, if anyone, um, yeah, yeah, like if anyone's interested, yeah, hit us up. um, anyway, okay. Um, yeah, I think I'll just like extend that question and like, be like, okay, like obviously like like you've had like early exposure to like Isaac's content, for example. Like, would you say like that was kind of the, like that was the catalyst for your inclination towards like, autistic debate bro content, and just for logic and stuff like that, or did you already have like a tilt in that direction and this was just like, conveniently placed, you know, in your interest space?
So it wasn't. So when I first saw his content, I don't remember when it was, but uh, my psychology was a bit different back then. I didn't watch a whole lot of his content
Mm-hmm.
back then. I just saw like one or two videos, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that didn't get so watching that didn't get me into debating or anything. I was already getting into debating, but not like nothing too rigorous.
Yeah.
Um, but it was his new content that got me into it. Where I was like, yeah, let me learn stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was mainly watching his new content there. Oh, this is like looks interesting. It's something that I should look into and learn. And then it was also like around when so I knew when I joined Clubhouse, I already knew Prop Logic, and
Yeah.
I might have already known FOL.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you knew FOL because I think we've had discussions about
Oh
FOL even
yeah,
back in the day.
yeah, I did formalize the problem of evil in
Yes.
FOL.
Yeah.
Um, that was later on in the Clubhouse stuff, but yeah, I probably did already know it. And actually, yeah, I did, because I think I knew modal logic as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so I know I learned modal logic after learning FOL, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but Clubhouse is when I started trying to get a bit more rigorous.
Yeah.
Because before that, I wasn't like actively debating. Well, I was debating, but like random people online.
Yeah,
But I
like
wasn't actively.
there have been like times where Sachin would be like, um, I'm gonna go and torture myself on Omegle.
Yeah, yeah, I used to do that on my old too. But yeah, it was trash. Um, but Clubhouse was pretty good. I spoke to some more well-known debaters there too. I debated Dot Dawkins like 3 times, I think.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, I remember. Ah, god
yeah,
damn it. Yeah, I witnessed that. It was like, like canonical. Like debating Dark Dawkins at least once is like sort of like a rite of passage of any of these, um, any of like the debate bro kind of people. Um, so like, like Jack Angstrike and like Venus and Isaac. Everyone has talked to like Dark Dawkins.
yeah. The first time I was being a bit nice. He kept me on for a bit longer than kicked me out. And the second and third time, like I think he got rid of me pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, I've witnessed that, but I think I forgot to like record it. Back in the day, screen recording was pretty trash. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Um, what was I? I wasn't gonna say. Yeah, I mean it's been quite a ride. Like both of us have had some like exposure to Ask Yourself. Like I've had some exposure to Ask Yourself independent of Sachin, and Sachin has had exposure, and we both got like okay, this kind of ties into the another question that we got in the comments, um, which is that how did both happen to learn? He's saying analytic logic, but like yeah, just like prop logic and stuff like that. Again, it's kind of like both of us had exposure to Ask Yourself, and like that's something that features like like the use of and deployment of formal logic in debates is something that's like a regular feature of Isaac's content and debates, right? Um, so that had like again independently motivated um, either of us, and like I have had a lot of help when I was trying to learn prop logic. I've had a ton of help from Sachin, and when I like even now, like if I have like if I practice some kind of like I'm in the process of kind of putting together a course on first order logic, and I would keep like messaging Sachin here and there, like trying to like extract um, like neat explanations that I can then repurpose for my course. Um, so like I have like a like if people don't know, I have like a prop logic course and it's linked in the description. A significant chunk of the credit in getting me to that level of skill would go to Sachin because like we have like I've had lots of discussions about that with him. Just like really uh, getting the concepts kind of nailed in. Um, yeah, there was one more thing. What was I gonna say? Yeah, it's also like funny because we've both been inspired by Ask Yourself, and like at this point, like both of us like have direct interactions with Isaac every now and then. Like Sachin regularly talks to him, if I'm not wrong.
Well, I used to be a patron. I'm not a patron anymore, so it's been a while. But I
Okay.
used to talk to him every month.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Sachin talked regularly with Isaac, and Isaac gave me a shout out. Like so, appreciate Isaac for that, um, because I think Isaac found some value in my latest live streams. Well, I mean, I just recently started doing streaming, and I have some family thing going on, so I'm not gonna be streaming for another like a month or so. Um, but yeah, like I'm gonna be like streaming every now and then, depending on availability. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I guess that's all. So thanks for everyone for like watching and sticking by, and thanks to Sachin for like joining. Um, what are those
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, that's no problem. What are those GitHub notifications? Oh, I'm setting up my Obsidian to like push stuff to GitHub by itself, but I haven't figured out just yet. And when it does, it'll automatically sync to my GitHub all my notes, and then I'll have like a cloud storage kind of thing going on. That's something I used to do, and I changed my operating system, so I'm gonna have to do that all over again. Anyway, that should be all. Um, so we'll see you next time. Stay safe. And yeah, keep like leveling up, I guess. Cool. I'll catch you.